Ooh. Yeah, you do look like sexy Serena Vanderwoodson.
I was like, well, I do a headband or a Serena. My hair looked like shit
I
today, so I did a
couldn't
Serena.
I couldn't find my headband today. So I did this, which has little pearls in it.
Ooh.
And then um
I mean, you have the whole preppy look going.
yeah, and then I
The
have a whole
matching set.
preppy matching set. I am wearing a skirt, but it basically is like a tube top. And then I'm also wearing like fake pearl earrings
Oh, very nice.
because I felt like that
Well,
was really a Blair Waldorf
Blair would
kind
never
of.
wear fake pearl earrings.
Well, I'm sorry, Blair, but
Jenny
I'm
would.
not as rich as you.
Yet. I'm drinking champagne.
Oh, I'm
'Cause
drinking out of a champagne flute.
that's even better. I
Um,
don't have any champagne flutes. But,
I am. I'm drinking iced tea because this show's all about tea.
true, true. Yeah, this is going to be very similar to our Bridgerton.
Yeah, but when we're modern,
It's a little,
this
yeah.
episode.
Yeah, basically. They kind of do the same shtick. I like how we're saying it like as if Bridgerton thought of it first. No, Bridgerton definitely ripped off Gossip Girl.
Yeah, obviously. Lady
um,
Whistledown is a direct ripoff of Gossip Girl.
like, so, but like, I think they do it better.
Um,
Like, if you're gonna have a Gossip Girl, like a mystery Gossip Girl thing, then like Bridgerton definitely did it better because I didn't know that Gossip Girl was a mystery
I
until
didn't
I found
either.
out like
I
way in that that was an issue.
Yeah, so I think that like it was weird. I didn't realize that who his Gossip Girl was supposed to be a mystery. My
Yeah,
mom said when she watched the first episode, she was like, "I need to watch more. I need to find out who Gossip Girl is." And I had finished the show and was like, "Oh, you cared about that?"
yeah.
Like I was like,
What?
"What?"
I don't know anyone who could have taken that away. Like,
But
I
my
just
mom
thought it
is
was like the
also obsessed with
narrator.
mysteries, so yeah, I thought Gossip Girl was just like the like gossip website at their school, and like it was just some nerd who got a lot of like tips about like people in their class's lives, and they were
Yeah,
just showing us the parts that were about our main characters, or like our main characters were just so dramatic that they had all the stuff about them.
I thought it was like Twitter. Like, oh, did you see what
Yeah.
this person did? Like, I thought people just submitted
Well, because also they showed like clips of
like,
people like submitting tips to
yeah,
Gossip Girl and stuff, so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then like nobody has to like know all the ins and outs of what's going on because like you just are getting texts constantly and deciding which ones you want to put on blast.
but does that mean that like Gossip Girl is then was really a gossip column exclusively about like Nate, Chuck, Blair, Serena, Dan, and Jenny? Like,
In one of
what?
the
Who's reading that?
in one of the
Who fucking cares?
in one of the post graduation seasons, Serena just is like has a thing that's like dedicated to like figuring out who Gossip Girl is and why they've been tormenting like their core group of six, I think, or five or whatever, like for so long and like what's going on. And I was like, wait, Gossip Girl only talks about like you guys? I thought Gossip Girl talked about everyone and we only heard about you guys.
Yeah, like, yeah, like Gossip Girl is just the director of the show. I don't understand. That's just
I
like
was like, what the fuck? But okay. I do remember always making fun
it's
of like
weird.
Chuck Bass for just like saying I'm Chuck Bass, like it like means anything. Like I remember as a kid, I was like, why does he
Yeah,
keep saying his name? Like it's gonna change things. Like he's just a dude.
Chuck
Like
Bass is
what?
such a meme. He's such kind of like a dweeb too when you go back. But one thing that I went back and watched it that threw me off was like looking back on it now, where I'm probably older than the actors were playing high schoolers. Chuck like does kind of look really young, and it's weird.
Mm.
Even though he plays a high schooler, his personality is that of like a 40-year-old with a gambling addiction, and like he just his face though is so like poreless. It's like little baby face, and he's just like having threesomes, like hanging on bitches, like investing in
Mm.
stocks, and
I
it's
think
like
like some aspects of his personality give like college frat boy, but just like with I think his whole personality is like a frat boy who never learned right from wrong who like has obscene amounts of money,
Yeah.
which I
Like
guess like
a like
lots
a
of frat boys
finance
do have
bro.
obscene. Yeah, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah,
So like
totally.
from that aspect, I think he's young and like he looks it and his personality is young. But I think like his personality ages up so fucking much,
Yeah.
like in the show, like so quickly, and I'm like, what the hell? Like in the first episode I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, he's that kid who like you meet who's like just
Just
fucking
obnoxious.
awful and
Yeah.
obnoxious. Um, Another thing that I thought was crazy that I kind of forgot about in the show is in episode 1, Nate's dad is like putting all this pressure on his relationship with Blair, being like, "You need to keep dating Blair so that her family likes our family and we'll do business with them." And I was like,
Hmm.
"Is this genuinely how you guys are thinking? Like, oh, my 16-year-old kid's relationship with this girl is going to affect my business deals because it shouldn't." And it's really weird that this is how it works.
Yeah, the way the parents in that show like are so invested in their kids' relationships because it happens there and it happens to Chuck as well. Like his dad's like, "Oh, like it's going to be good for you to have a real girlfriend because you'll finally settle down." And it's like, "Well, no, he's like still 16." And the same thing
Yeah.
happens with like Dan and Serena when her mom's like, "Well, Serena and Dan are dating, so I, a 45-year-old woman, can't date the father of my like 14-year
I think
child's
to some
boyfriend."
extent I understood that because like there's more involved than like just um like it's like I feel like it is weird to some extent if like you're dating your kid's boyfriend's dad. I think it makes sense when she's like, okay, I might not pursue this relationship because my daughter is dating his son. And like odds are the daughter and son are going to break up, but like she doesn't want to pursue this relationship when it's sort of like this
Yeah,
awkward line to be crossed. Like I think it was weird that they got married while their kids were still in high school and like living under their roofs because it's like, oh, you know, your kids are like step siblings, but also they are like on
yeah.
again, off again relationship.
Do they also not like share a sibling at some point too?
I don't know, maybe I
I
can't
feel
remember.
like if I was like to my parents, "This is my boyfriend," I would want my mom to tell me if his dad is her ex. Like you don't have to go into just I feel like she should have been told that
Yeah,
at least they have history.
yeah, I
It's like,
know,
"Oh,
probably.
Humphrey, I actually used to date."
Yeah, I definitely don't think they have that kind of relationship. Like I would understand if Rufus told Dan, "Oh, like Lily is my ex, like your girlfriend's mom is my ex girlfriend," and like it was a really serious relationship. But like I don't think that Lily and Serena have the kind of relationship where she would bring it up. She'd be like, "Oh, he's just a disgusting lower classman."
Oh, I guess that's fair. Yeah, but like all yeah, I guess she did try to work that angle for a bit. Um,
Yeah, even though Dan is like what middle upper class.
yeah, it was bodies, wise,
Can we
bodies. Your family is middle upper class.
can we talk about the fact that Dan's family apartment is a loft apartment in Brooklyn that, as far as I can tell, has one bedroom?
His family is so fucking annoying because they're just like, "Oh, we're poor," and then like continuously do like not poor person things,
Yeah, but
i.e.,
no,
live in New York.
I just want to understand where they all sleep. Because it seems like the thingy opens, the loft thing opens, and it's Jenny's bedroom sometimes, and sometimes it's Dan's bedroom. It's never Rufus's
Oh, they
bedroom.
they actually rotate rooms and they're homeless the other half of the time. It's kind of a fun show that way, I think too, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
I feel like Gossip Girl is supposed to be like, well, I think Gossip Girl is supposed to be like an escapist sort of like run to this world of like the rich and like
true,
fabulous and like live here for like 40 minutes a week and then like go back to your normal life where you have to do boring mundane stuff.
right? I
So
think,
like yeah, I think it's comedic looking back on it, especially because like the stuff they do is so ridiculous, but I think a lot of their viewers at the time, or at least I don't know, when I watched it, and to be fair I might have been too young to be watching it. I was like 12 or 13 when I like watched all of it. um I think after it had all come out too. Like I definitely was really invested. Like I was like, this is drama. I was crying. I was like
oh yeah,
heartbroken.
I think it's
Like yeah,
definitely drama. I think like I just watched like this season finale like the first season finale in prep here, and they do make like I didn't notice as much. Like looking back on it, I didn't remember that, but watching it, like Blair does make like jokes a lot of the time. Because I also thought it was like a lot more serious than that, but there are like moments where, but
Oh,
it
they make
sticks out.
jokes, yeah, but I think
Yeah,
like any good show has to have like characters who are making jokes. I think they do a better job at having like all the characters are a bit witty in like their responses to things,
yeah, yeah, totally. And there's so many
which I
scenes where she
like.
just like would sit down and be like, "You're a dumb ugly bitch." I'm like, leave. It's like, "Are you sad
Blair
that your
is like
husband left you?" And then like gets up and leaves.
Blair's really good at like just like dragging people,
She's
like
just like,
fucking tearing them down with like these not subtle words. Should we talk about the fact that Gossip Girl got a reboot? Um,
yeah, we can. I've heard terrible, terrible things.
I've only really heard bad things about it, but then I did watch one video essay that said that um, people did enjoy. I don't think it got another season. Maybe it did.
Okay.
That said that like people did were enjoying the show, and that like it was mainly like the critics that didn't like it.
Did
Um,
you watch any of it?
I watched like I've seen like clips of it. Like I'd watch like ooh like extra spicy thing happened in Gossip Girl reboot, and I'd be like, okay, I'll watch this one clip of like what's happening.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Um, I did. I will say like I do think there were like good aspects to it. I like that you know who Gossip Girl is in episode one, but I
Oh,
think it's
okay.
kind of weird that it's the teachers.
I heard it was the teachers. Yeah, I
Um,
think like it's okay if it's the teachers, but I think like I saw the scene of it because I was like watching a review.
yeah,
But like, isn't it like I feel like their reasoning was weird behind it. Like they're like, oh, like we gotta like put these kids in check or something.
which I
Like
think
that's
is
fucking
weird.
weird. I feel like they could have come up with something more fun.
I also think like okay, I went to a private school, and maybe I'm just like a really goody goody, but like I feel like at my school I didn't notice that much like kids being dicks to the teachers. And like I feel like a lot of the kids it's like they were spoiled and like stuff, but it was like not like oh like I'm better than my teacher, like I have more money than my teacher. It was more just like being like a
Like,
just like
yeah,
being unaware of their like privilege kind of thing, like and like
yeah,
being sort
like
of very
they're not
like
like, haha, I'm rich, you're poor. It's like subtle
yeah
things that they don't even notice that they're doing.
like
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like it wasn't like I feel like it was never like oh like I'm better than you to my teachers. It was always sort of just like oh these are your teachers and like you want good grades and like you're gonna like cry to them if you don't get good grades, like that's how you're spoiled kind of thing. And then like that's like the plot of like why the teachers are Gossip Girl is because like they're shitty to the teachers, and it's like I don't think this is how like private school kids would be acting to their teachers. I think they'd be shitty to each other.
right.
um
Yeah, it's weird that they have beef with the teachers because, yeah, even in like the OG Gossip Girl, they don't really beef with the teachers.
no,
They
yeah.
like try, like, I think Blair tries to once and gets like her ass absolutely handed to her.
I
Because,
think like
like, I think the adults are always kind of like too big fish, too big a fish for them to fry, and they always kind of just stick to each other. Like, the villains are never really adults up until like later seasons.
it's like I could see you like not liking your teacher because you think they're unfairly like grading you or something like that. I just didn't really get that as like the
Yeah.
reason for them being Gossip Girl. I didn't like that.
I feel like it could have been so interesting too if it was more to do with like they had beef with the kids' parents and like through Gossip
Yeah,
Girl they uncovered like their parents' hidden secrets kind of thing.
yeah, I think that would have made
Like
sense too because it's
yeah.
like oh like these kids are spoiled and it's their parents' fault. Like not like let's bully these 15-year
Yeah.
olds because they're mean to us.
Cuz
Yeah, should we talk about tropes?
sure.
Okay, we kind of talked about this earlier, but sorry. I think Chuck is the epitome of the early 2000s bad boy, which is, you know, in like a lot of the early 2000s movies and TV shows where it's clear they don't know how to create a guy who's like not good. Like they're like, oh, what
Yeah.
do guys who aren't nice do? And it's like, oh, they women, and it's like, okay, but also no. Can I say a Chuck Bass line that um that I heard in episode 1 that is so weird that I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Okay, just while we're on the topic of Chuck Bass, I said, line that was fucked up in the pilot. When discussing Serena, he says, there's something about that level of perfection that needs to be violated. And then he later tries to assault her.
Yeah. Chuck, season 1, episode 1
I
is like
also,
a security max criminal. He's like,
he tries to, um, like, assault Jenny too.
oh yeah, yeah,
I forgot about that until the end, and like I thought maybe like because I think I vaguely remembered like Dan came and punched Chuck, and I thought it was like that like Jenny was just freaked out being like alone with him, and then I went back and watched the episode because like I haven't watched the show in nearly a decade. I'm realizing now. So like when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh no, he was straight up like forcing himself on her, and she was saying no, stop it, stop it. Like I thought like
yeah. No,
she was
it's
just
a
like
lot.
drink. I thought he was just like pressuring her to like drink with him on the roof, and she was like uncomfortable, and she was like texting her brother like, "Can you come get me?" Like, I don't really know how to get out of this situation. And then I rewatched it. I was like, "Oh no, like this is really fucked up."
Yeah. And I think that that is the better, that's what it should have been. And I think that that's what the writers wish it would have been as well. Because I don't think he
Yeah,
ever does anything like that again after the
no.
pilot. And so I'm just wonder if maybe that just didn't really test well
Well,
for
so
this episode. And I can't imagine
here's a
why.
here's a spoiler for later in the seasons. I don't know if you got to the part where Jenny leaves um,
Like
New
when she
York,
runs away?
where like her character leaves the show.
Oh, I
But
think maybe I just stopped watching when she left.
Jenny and Chuck do have sex.
I knew
in
I
the
knew that they had sex.
and like
And
it's
I'm
not
always
like
confused as to why, because he literally, yeah, I
he
think
was
they just,
upset, like something with Blair, I'm sure. And then like randomly, Jenny and and she was mad because like I think Nate rejected her or something. And so randomly, like she loses her virginity to Chuck, and I'm like, really, the guy who like a couple years ago like tried to assault you, really?
there's Chuck when
And they
that
just
happens to, like, and I feel like that was a thing as well in, like, I don't, like, Oscar was like, what, 2005? Which,
2007 to 2012.
oh, shit. So, like, wait, like, 2007, way too late to even be like, oh,
Yeah,
you know, it was like the 80s, so they didn't know that that wasn't okay. And then there's like
yeah.
now where they absolutely should have known better, but anyway, still did it. And then it's kind of just like they brush it under the rug so quickly. They're like, actually, like just you could just pretend that never happened, and the rest of the show makes
I
a lot more sense.
I think just like if they wanted to brush that under the rug, which to be fair, like my brain had like
Yes, same.
rewritten it to think, oh no, this is what happened. Like he didn't actually do that. Like yeah,
You
like
have to.
because like I remembered the scene with Serena where she like knees him in the balls, and I was like, okay, that was pretty like quick, and then like it was over, and then that actually lasted longer than I thought too, because like your brain like rewrites it to like not be the case because he becomes like a lovable character, kind
Yeah,
of. So like you're like, oh, this can't be true, but yeah. So I think if they did want us to forget it, they should basically never ever put Chuck and Jenny in any scenes together ever, and they
yeah.
should not
You're so
have
right.
and
That's a
they should not
stark
have Blair
reminder.
run Jenny out of New York after she finds out Jenny fucked her boyfriend. It's like, excuse me? Remember what your boyfriend did to her like
Yeah, what the fuck?
3 or 4 seasons ago? We gonna talk about that? In the show, in the first episode, the two girls who Chuck like asks, oh, who's that about Jenny, are like, oh, she's not gonna be so pure after you're done with her. And I'm like, so you all know that he does
Yeah,
really bad things. Like he probably has actually done that to girls before. And
yeah,
you're all just like, oh no, he's just a bad boy. And I think a lot of early 2000s shows, and like even earlier, but like I noticed it a lot in those shows and those like rom-com type movies where it's like if they're trying to depict a guy who's like a bad boy, they're like, oh well, we'll have him like basically try to assault someone, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
maybe take a step back and be like, there's levels between like I'm a nice guy and I just tried to force myself on you. And I just like want to get that out of the way that Gossip Girl makes Chuck Bass is like the perfect example of them not understanding how to create a
yeah.
bad boy character.
Yeah, because they like believe it too. Like they're like, oh no, like this is just his shtick. Like, oh, classic Chuck, like criminally
Yeah.
assaulting someone. Like, no, this your friend's not quirky.
Yeah,
He
it's
should go
not
to
like
jail.
it's not like he's not like a sexy bad boy.
It's like,
He's like
oh, I go by the beat of my
this
own
is
drum.
illegal. He's pretty fucked up kind of thing.
Every time I talk to people about the show, that's kind of one of the first things I say is if you're gonna get on board with the show and really enjoy it, and to enjoy the show, I think part of that is just being really into Chuck. Then you're gonna
Yeah.
have to forget about certain scenes in episode 1 and just delete them from your brain.
I think you almost have
Otherwise,
to not watch the first episode of the show.
yeah, I just hate when writers are making like the bad character or like not even necessarily the bad character. Here's what I think: when there's like the bad boy and like the good boy. When I think of like a bad boy, I don't think of like the villain or like the evil person. I think it's like the one that's not like the Boy Scout, the one that's like probably like I don't know, like
Like he doesn't follow the rules. He like
yeah, like he's morally
kind of does
gray, like
whatever
an
he wants.
anti-hero vibes. I don't think
Yeah.
he's like pure evil. And I kind of think it's like, it annoys me so much when people, I feel like it's like almost like the same thing as being like a pick me. Um, Guys that aren't necessarily like the Boy Scout or like the captain of the football team and that are like supposed to be the bad boys, but then they also just make them evil. It's like the same thing to me when they make like Sharpay evil, but it's like, well, why is she evil? Just because she's feminine. And it's like, oh, why is he a bad boy? Just because like,
Yeah, it's like you didn't need to take it a step further by making
yeah,
them like a bad person. Like you almost could have been like,
yeah,
oh, like I think Chuck in general, like the way like you portray him as the bad boy character is that like he does things that are beneficial to himself. And so like from that standpoint it's like yeah, he could do the right thing, but like it's probably not unless like it helps him in some way or like it affects his life. Like he's not going to like go out of his way to do something good. And I think that's enough to make him like sort of like a more of a bad boy character than like
yeah,
having to like actually just make him like a terrible person. Because like outside of that first episode of what he does, like he is still really shitty, and like they kind of could have like eased up on that a little bit because like I feel like a lot of early on Chuck is like so irredeemable, but then like
yeah.
they're like, and like this happens in all TV shows, like if they force a narrative on you enough, you just start to believe it.
Yeah, it's like they just try to convince you that
Like I remember when I yeah, like I
that it's
remember
fine, but it's not fine.
it's like Chuck is so evil, and then at some point, like they just decide that he's not evil, and like there's more to him, and like because like you're watching it from that perspective, and like how the show wants you to watch it, you
Hmm.
very much believe that. But then if you look at it objectively, it's like he's a really bad person, and we shouldn't forgive him. I will say one thing about Gossip Girl is basically all of the like can watch like the first 5 episodes of the season and the last 5 episodes of the season and you get everything you need to know and all the middle episodes, and this is something that
Yeah.
like my brother said to me because he was like he shockingly loves teen drama shows also. um, um, and he was like yeah, sometimes I skip like the middle 10 episodes because it's just filler. It's just like they'll get into a fight that they'll never speak of again like at the end of the 10 episodes, so I just like
True.
get rid of it. And I'm like, oh, that's really fair. Like, I think it is like the first few episodes of the season and the last few episodes of the season are basically everything important that you need to know about the show and the characters.
Yeah.
I think when I was thinking about it, I was like, I realized Gossip Girl because like obviously it is. I think I like watched like a video essay or something that said like Gossip Girl had like a choice at the end of its first season where it could like be like a genuine commentary on the
Yeah.
rich and the wealthy, or like it could just like be an escape into that world. And I feel like I enjoy that it really went the like not commentary route.
You like the
um,
post season of Gossip Girl?
but like I feel like Dan is supposed to be that like that quote real world commentary. He's still like obviously very wealthy, and like the reason why you like don't like his character is like because like I think he like suffers from that like trope of like being in a sort of a crazy world and then trying to be the normal one. It's like
Yeah.
the same way that the Hat Girl in Scream Queens in season one, like
Yeah,
she
true.
suffers from that because it's like, oh, this world is already so ridiculous and like out of like obviously like I'm sure there are real people, there are to some extent like people who act like that. um I don't think it's like crazy to say that like for people who are so like wealthy that they don't like fucking realize how like insane their lives are and stuff. But like it's sort of like this world is so crazy and out of the realm of possibility to me that it's like having someone who's like me being put in this world honestly is just annoying. Like
Yeah,
stop bringing
I see
me
what you mean.
stop trying to bring it back to reality. Like just let it run. And so I
Yeah,
think that
totally.
like I don't know what that like trope would be, but he kind of like suffers from that a lot where he's like not
Yeah.
willing to just go with it. So like you kind of just end up being really mad that he's like even there.
That happens actually in Parks and Rec. I think that was one of the reasons why Mark Brendanawicz got written off in season one was because he was supposed to be the straight man, and they're just like, this show is being anchored, like it's being tethered down by a straight man, so we just need to cut them loose.
Yeah, yeah.
You either die in season one when you're written off, or you see yourself become long enough, a hero long enough to become a, what's the word? To
You
become
either die
a,
a hero or you live long
oh,
enough
let's
to
just see
become the
yourself
villain.
become fucking Dan Humphrey in
It's
season 6 of Gossip Girl. Oh, can we talk about friendcess, but specifically in terms of like dating? Because I know
okay.
we talked about friendcess a bit in Friends, but I guess even friendcess happens a lot here too. But to me, like friendcess happens in every teen drama. I'll get over that. Like everyone's sleeping with everyone.
Let's get real. Princess is just like a
Yeah,
natural part of
that's fine. I'm not
being an
gonna.
adult with friends of like whatever gender you're attracted to.
Exactly. And I think it's totally natural and it's fine. I think when it gets weird is when like you're all each other's exes.
Yeah,
That's a
okay.
little bit culty.
I like to call this relationship hopping in the sense that
Okay.
in a TV show, when it's gone on long enough and they don't know what to do, they just start saying, "Oh, what would happen if like we switched up the relationship so it's this person dates this person for a bit, and then oh, what if we made this person date this person for a bit?" And like they just like swap all the
Yeah.
characters until eventually they basically all fuck each other. And like
That's weird, man.
and then like at the end of the show, whenever they decide whatever characters are gonna get together, they just have the last two characters who aren't together be like, "Oh, I'm actually really attracted to you, and I always have been." It's like what?
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about that is real shocked that like not shocked because I don't think it would make sense, but real shocked that like Chuck only ever dates Blair. In terms of like the friend group, like I never wanted Chuck and Jenny to ever interact with each other
Yeah.
after episode
That's kind
one.
of weird.
um, but and I like kind of, and it would have been really out of character for him to date Serena, I guess. But like it just seems like
Did him and Serena ever sleep together? I thought they did.
no,
Oh, okay, so I was just a rumor. Thank God.
no, nothing ever happened between him and Serena.
Serena just wouldn't, I don't think.
Serena wouldn't. I think Serena does think very like Serena freaking hates Chuck. Like
Yeah,
I
she
think even when they're
does.
friends, she
And
doesn't love him. She doesn't like him.
she would not
Like
go for a Chuck. She goes
I
for
think
Dan.
at
Like,
most she's like sympathetic towards him. But then again, okay, and that's the other thing. Blair has slept with Chuck, Dan, and Nate.
I don't. I didn't see this season, but like I found out that Dan and Blair dated, and that's weird to me. How was that?
Um, I when watching it absolutely hated it. I was so mad.
Okay.
Upon reflection, I don't hate it,
Okay.
and I don't want to. Yeah,
I watched them
I want to talk
interact a
about it
little bit,
because I
knowing that
actually do have
information.
some thoughts on it that I want to bring up
Okay.
later.
We'll put a pin in it.
But yeah,
That's fair.
maybe yeah, but I don't hate it. I think Blair is the one who could definitely most seamlessly date everyone in the show and then still act like she's uh better than all of them. She's
But to
like,
me,
I
it's
have
like, okay, you get like one, and then after that, it gets really weird. Because then it's
I
also like, not only is it like it's not only like it's not like some other guy that you're jumping to or like a friend that you leave your boyfriend for. It's like your new boyfriend, and it's also your best friend's ex. he's like hooked up with your other friend, and it's
What
also
I
like your ex-boyfriend's best friend. Like, what the fuck?
what I think
And then
is acceptable in this, because it starts off with Nate is in love with Serena but dating Blair.
I'm okay to forego the Nate Blair relationship.
And
She can
so
get a gimme on that one.
for Nate and Blair, I think, yeah, both of them can kind of leave that and like very much have it be like, oh, well, we started dating in kindergarten and we just like really
Yeah.
like it just we never realized that this, you know, wasn't it. See from that
Oh
perspective as like
yeah. I
they're
think
kids, so
that,
they think
and
that's sort of
yeah.
what it is. But I haven't watched it in a while, but I remember it being like a relatively significant plot point of season one. Because then she and Chuck putting herself out there for him and him just like, I feel like fucking shattering her self esteem.
Yeah. That's
And
another
then
trope
like,
that I don't like, and we talk about all the time. But like the will they, won't they? I, especially in this situation where it's just I'm tired of it.
oh, see, I would say with Chuck and Blair, a lot of their will they won't they, like I would say up until they actually get together, at the end of season two or three or whenever they like say I love you, I actually found their will they won't they really compelling. But I think everything that happens after that, like when they like break up, get back together, have all these like really arbitrary reasons why they can't be together, I think that's really annoying.
Well, that's what I like. I feel like they never have a good reason to not be together. Like you know
Yeah.
the reason they don't end up together at the end of season one? They're about to like run away together. They have this like whole trip to like Europe planned. Sounds fucking lit. And they're about to go on his private jet to fly off. And
Doesn't
then
Chuck's dad
his
die?
dad's like, no. His dad
Oh.
just comes up to him and is like, wow, I'm really proud of you, son, because you're going away now with a real girlfriend.
Oh.
And that's going to teach you responsibility and how to be faithful. And then Chuck's like, and then like,
Oh yeah. I
just
actually do
leaves
think
her. It
I
was so
actually thought that
stupid.
okay, I kind of like that because it really showed how like deep Chuck's daddy issues run and like how like much growth he has to do still if he wants to be in a real
I
relationship because like he
guess.
can't even like confess to like Blair that he like he can't talk to her about what he's going through. He just like immediately acts out and like fucks some other girls. Um,
I guess. I think like I'm okay
I
for that to
think
happen once, but then it's like
I
I'm
think what
not
was
gonna
dumb
believe they're gonna
is
get together again, and then they break up again, and I don't believe it. Like,
okay. So I thought what was dumb was that and like I did understand why Blair didn't want to get back with him after that because she's like, no, like
yeah,
I'm tired of putting myself out there and like having you hurt me. But like I think what was a stupid reason for them not to get back together was like in season five or I think six, like the end of season six or like or at the beginning of season six, sorry, or like the end of season five. They like show them like meeting up and hooking up, and then Blair says something along the lines of like, "We can't accomplish what we want to accomplish without hurting each other. So like, this is my goal and this is your goal, and once it's over, then we can be together. But we can't beforehand because we'll just end up using each other and hurting each other to do it." And I was like, "That's really stupid." That's like a
right.
reason to not date each other.
Also, like,
Because also, what are the
I feel
rules
like
of
that's
that?
just a fundamental like toxicity with your two personalities.
Yeah,
That's not like oh we have conflict of interest.
that's yeah. That was kind
That's
of
like
like
no we torture
I was
each
kind
other
of like, oh, at
emotionally.
this point, like I could get it if you're like we have to keep this relationship a secret because like you need to portray a certain image to like accomplish this
Oh,
goal
that
or
would have been
whatever.
good.
Like that would have been almost more interesting than like oh like we just have to like get this one thing that because there's always going to be something
Yeah.
like it's never going to end. Like if that's your problem, then that's never going to end. But yeah, will they, won't they in this show to some extent was done well with Blair and Chuck, but I think it got to a point where it was like very poorly done. Also, I guess Serena and Dan kind of had a will they won't they, but like it was just bad because it was just like we
Yeah.
can't date. Our parents are married.
At least with that though, I prefer it because they seem to have actual reasons why they
Yeah,
break up. Like they break up in season one because Dan's fed up with Serena lying to him. And I always like as well in shows if there's like a breakup or there's like a confrontation. I like when like it makes sense with what I've seen because I feel like a lot of breakups kind of are random in shows. But I like that it
yeah,
was kind of subtle actually in that moment where like Dan was like, no, but like you lie to me constantly. And it's like, ooh, I didn't know the show was even aware that Serena was doing that all the time.
yeah. I do think I appreciate that like their breakup made sense. I am looking back and like I still think Dan is probably one of the worst characters on the show. But looking back, I kind of appreciate him more as a character, like um, in the
Yeah,
show.
I think
Like I hated him. He didn't deserve the amount of hate I gave him when I little 13-year-old, 12-year-old me watching the show. But and like yeah, I think in the context of the show, I get why he was annoying, but like he's not as bad as I think my last thing that I had to say about Dan was that I think because like the writers were so stuck in what he had to be as a character, that he had to be like the moral voice of reason. It kind of got messed up when they had to also keep him prevalent, so like he'd get sucked into the drama and he would do a lot of the like backstabbing and conniving, and then he loses all of his moral high ground by like doing that. But they keep trying to make him like I think they like have this one dimensional idea of what his character is,
yeah.
and they're not allowing for like this room for growth, and they're just like, well, I don't belong to this world, I didn't realize. It's like, no, don't act calculated and then say, oh well, I don't belong to this world, like I don't understand the rules. Like you do now, though, you do get the rules anyways.
Yeah, he acts an awful lot like one of them for someone who keeps talking about how he's not one of them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is an interesting idea that Dan is Gossip Girl, and I didn't see any of the later seasons, but I think that could have worked if they knew that from the start. But obviously they didn't.
Mm-hmm. I didn't I didn't care that much, but I think the way they handled it was bad. But there is a fun plot in season 5 where Georgina is Gossip Girl.
Oh, okay.
Like basically, like I think like
That makes sense.
Dan, or like as we know it, Gossip Girl, hangs up their hat and like leaves like their computer or something to Georgina with like all their tips and information. I think it was something like those lines.
Oh, interesting.
And then
That's so
Georgina
fucking
like
weird.
takes over and is Gossip Girl, and you see her trying to be Gossip Girl and trying to like keep like making she like tries to
What?
like in the episode I watch orchestrate gossip to happen because and she's like it's so hard because we're not all forced to be in the same place like in high school because they're like adults now, and like it's hard to like make them all like be at school together and drop a
She's
bomb
just like
and like
producing the show. Like, fuck,
she's
how do
like
we
yeah,
get these characters to stay together?
yeah, I feel like it is just like a commentary on like oh shit, okay, how do we make this highest impact as possible. But
Oh,
yeah,
so like fourth wall. That's crazy.
um I liked what she was in the season I was watching because it was like she randomly is like married with a kid and like she's just a terrible
Oh,
mother, and like
interesting.
she hates her husband, and like she just like is in there
Jashina
doing
doesn't deserve that much hate. Like,
no, but I just think it's really like a funny like sort of like way they do the picture because like it's that, and then also she's like in her office being Gossip Girl and her husband's like oh well maybe you could he's like trying to suggest ways to help her, and she's like you're fucking useless, like get out of here. She's like go deal with our child. Like really like
he's like
over
super
the
turned
top,
on. I
like
love
really
powerful
over the
women.
top villain, and like I just think that's a really fun way to play it with Georgina.
She also like
um
caves very quickly. I thought
yeah,
that she was wrapped up really quickly by Blair and the gang when she was trying to blackmail Serena. It took all of one confrontation from Blair, and she was just like, bye.
well I feel like Georgina's power comes from like I feel like the reason why she worked as Gossip Girl for a little bit is because she's really good at like hiding behind um
Yeah.
like yeah, I think like the name of Gossip Girl, like she like is very powerful when like you don't have anything on her, but as soon as you confront her in any way, she like crumbles.
Okay, okay. So that's like her thing. Interesting.
But I think it's kind of funny and like fits with her character. Like I feel like she wants to be like the best villain there is, and then she just like can't hold up.
Yeah.
Um, I also have some notes on Blair and Serena's friendship that I
Yeah,
would
go
like to
for it.
discuss at this moment. This is the most toxic fucking relationship I've ever seen. Of just like these two people who like just clearly fundamentally do not understand each other, trying to be friends, but like it's mostly just like them constantly backstabbing each other and fighting. I think Blair is a bad friend, but I think in the first couple of seasons, a lot of what she does to Serena is very reactionary and petty, whereas like Serena just genuinely is really shit to Blair in the first couple of seasons. Like sleeps with
Yeah.
Blair's boyfriend. Then, after she sleeps with Blair's boyfriend, leaves town, doesn't tell Blair, doesn't tell anyone she left town, doesn't call Blair and say, I'm
Yep.
really sorry, like, doesn't say anything to her, and then comes back to town, feels bad about what she did, and says, well, why don't you want to be my friend anymore? I feel badly. And it's like, that's not enough for me to forgive what you did. And that's not enough. Like, Blair doesn't even know
Yeah.
about her sleeping with Nate at first.
Yeah, she
And
doesn't
like,
even. Yeah.
still her friend coming to town, and she's willing to like be like, okay, fine, like maybe you were going through something I don't understand. I'll forgive you. And then like she finds out Serena and Nate slept together, and I feel like Serena's still trying to play the victim. And I feel like Serena in the first few episodes at least, and like maybe later not as much, but in the first few episodes, plays this card of like, why don't people feel more bad for me? But like I think she burned enough bridges that none of her old friends should want to be friends with her when she comes back to town. And it
Yeah,
makes sense,
totally.
and then it makes sense that like her and Dan have this connection because like he only knows really like the new Serena, like he only
Yeah.
knows who she is now and who she's trying to be. And then that's how you see her redemption, not just like, well, I feel bad about what I did. It's like, that's not enough. Like,
Yeah, I think as well as the fact of like Serena just becomes I think well like some of what we say like they do like they just try to kind of convince you that she is this way without actually showing you like they just like have such a hard on for Serena. They never want her to be really the bad guy, which doesn't help her case because I think every time they do like flashbacks or try to like allude to like her dark past where like she made all these terrible mistakes. They whenever like they show anything or like whenever they discuss anything, they never have like the balls to actually commit to her having done something shitty. It's always like she's always like never actually doing anything bad. Like even when she was
basically,
getting blackmailed for like attempted murder, it was like kind of, oh, well, no, but you didn't actually kill him. So, like,
basically everything Serena does is like anytime they're like, oh, she's done bad things, it's like, oh, it's mostly just like you have done drugs and you drink excessively and like you've had
yeah.
a lot of sex and
She's
like,
never like a bitch. Like, she seems to have the same personality.
oh, and then
She
something
just
I don't
parties.
like that they do throughout the season is like they kind of try to like excuse. I think for Serena, it's really easy for her to be nice because everyone is nice to her,
Yeah.
except for like with the exception of like Blair. Basically, like nobody really holds Serena accountable for her actions. So it's really easy for Serena to blow through life and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna be nice to you. Like I'm just a really good person," because life is just super easy for her. And
Yeah.
I think like you when you watch her in the show, it's like it's almost yeah like the creators of the show don't want to admit that they've created this character who's just like
Yeah.
live blows through life so easily. Like anytime Serena deals with any sort of conflict or like issue, she's always like, well, you were mean to me first, so I had to get even. And then she does something awful, as opposed to like trying to like understand why that person is really upset with you, or like really like try to grasp it. And I do think like to be fair, when it comes to Blair, Blair is the same way where she acts really rashly. And like as soon as she finds out Serena's done something to her, she's just like immediately on the offense. Like, how can I destroy Serena? But I
Yeah.
just think Serena does a lot of this like I think what makes her character so frustrating is that she just blows through life so easily and then expects people to like feel bad for her when like the smallest thing happens, or like I think like a lot of her problems just come from her like not willing to her not being willing to admit that like she's not always the good guy.
Yeah. Like,
Um,
she always is the good guy, and everyone always tells her she's the good guy. And she, I guess, never technically does anything wrong. Like, I don't
well, she
know.
does do things that are wrong.
But, like the things that she thinks that she's done wrong aren't like she only ever like can accept guilt for things that aren't that bad, but like can't
I think.
even
Well, I think
comprehend that she's done
also
other things.
what like works. What like I think it works because like I think it kind of like makes her character feel more teenagery. Is that like she doesn't
Yeah,
understand why feeling bad about doing something isn't enough to like excuse her from doing it. Um, like I
yeah,
think like that is very much like how like a kid sees things. It's like, well, I apologized and I feel bad, so like, doesn't that mean you forgive me now? And like Serena, I think is used to just like,
yeah,
yeah, like I do think Serena's life just like, and her friendship with Blair, like I kind of a lot of the time, even though I think Blair takes it way too far, I'm still on Blair's side because I understand why Blair is like, hurt and betrayed by a lot of Serena's actions. Whereas like
Yeah.
with Serena, it just seems like she does things, she hurts Blair, she says, "You shouldn't be mad at me about this." And then Blair does something really fucked up in return. But then Serena does something fucked up back and she starts to play the game. And then at the end of it, Serena's like, well, like, I didn't do anything that bad. I was only reacting to what you were doing. And it's like, take ownership for, like, what happened to
Yeah.
start with. Like,
I feel like once you
not,
retaliate, that's like a two-way thing. Like you're
yeah.
both.
Because, like, that's the thing is, like, I think definitely to start with, you're like, oh, I see where Serena's coming. Like, I think there was an episode where Blair was supposed to model some of her mom's clothing, and then
Right.
Serena
Yeah, I
comes
remember that
and they
episode.
just like fall in love with her, and they're like basically trying to like edge Blair out of it and like have it be all Serena. And Blair realizes this and is really hurt. And Serena's response is, "Blair, I just thought like we were." She's like, "No one told me you weren't a part of it anymore." And Blair's like, "You didn't notice like your dressing room was there and mine was nowhere to be seen, and like when
Yeah.
I wasn't around." And she's like, "They just said you were running late." And Blair's like, "I like literally can't believe you would do that." And it's like, yeah, Serena didn't question any of it. And like even if it's not technically Serena's fault, it's like in that moment you need to understand why Blair is really hurt by your actions. And like say, "I'm really sorry," and like this is really messed up, and I obviously
Yeah.
won't like continue and go on stage with this. And I'm pretty sure Serena like goes on stage and like
She like doubles down.
does the
Yeah.
thing. And like Blair like definitely reacts poorly and like I think probably pulls some really toxic Blair shit. And then Serena from that is like, okay, well now it's time to take you down. And I'm like, the thing is, Blair acts like a spoiled, hurt child, which is basically what she is. Whereas Serena just like needs to be taken down a peg. Like I feel like she's one of those people you meet in
Yeah.
life and you're like, you genuinely need to like deal with some hardships in order for me to be okay with you as a person.
No, I agree with you, and I think that like Blair is a better influence on Serena than Serena. Like, and think Serena like deeply negatively affects Blair. Like
Mm-hmm.
Blair is like the only one that's ever like straight up with Serena and
I think,
like gives her any tough love and like is honest with her. Like she tells Serena like, no, Serena, like you fucked up. You need to apologize to Dan.
yeah,
Like
I
she
think
calls her out
um,
on shit.
I think some of Blair's better influences like are no. It's I think what Serena has done for Blair as a person, it can amount to um maybe Blair being more willing to like talk to people who aren't in her social class and like barely. And what Blair has done for
Yeah.
Serena is like actually held Serena accountable for her actions.
Yeah, and like helped her while she's in distress and like tied up loose
Yeah.
ends for her and like I think as well like what really like sways like the whole like team Serena team Blair thing for me is that like I don't know it's like I don't think what they have is really a friendship. I think it's like Serena leeches off Blair because she has no other friends and like kind of needs Blair.
I think they have a
Um,
toxic codependent relationship that
yeah.
should be cut off but isn't.
So you guys don't need to be friends. Like this is like after the second friendship breakup, that's it. I don't know.
I also think
Like
if you
how do
want
you
to
come back from her sleeping with your boyfriend? Like what the fuck? That's so
okay, see, I think they potentially could have come back from that, but then after that would have had to really double down on why they have a great friendship. But every time Serena and like post that, like really like make them like this like great duo that is always there
mm-hmm.
for each other. But post that, like every time Serena and Blair's friendship is going well for more than one episode, they have a huge fight.
Yeah, it's super toxic. They seem to like not really be like I don't know, Serena you slept with her boyfriend. Like maybe you don't do that if you want to be friends with her. And then it's like you like Serena comes back into town in the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that reaches out to Blair. Like she doesn't have to. Like she can just not rekindle that friendship. And she does. And you know how bad it is for you. And you know how bad it is for both of you because of how you just basically like imploded it the first time. And Blair doesn't know that. She like feels bad for you because you disappeared and thinks that
I
something
think
traumatic happened.
I think when Serena shows up in the first episode, also like the way she like shows up and says hi to Blair is so.
Yeah.
messed up. Like she did it in such a public way as opposed to being like giving her a call or like coming to
Yeah.
her house when like
She shows up and
nothing was
expects to
happening.
like pick up where they left off.
She's
Because
like,
Serena's
"Hi."
the one pushing for them to be friends. Like Blair's kind of like, I don't know, you fucking left me cold turkey. Like,
Serena is almost always the one pushing for her and Blair to be friends,
hmm.
which I think is crazy. But it's because Blair is a good friend to Serena.
Yeah. That's why I think I'm always team Blair because I'm kind of like, oh, Blair seems to have her own shit going on and it seems more independent. And then you just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like leech off of her and cause her problems.
I feel like the only times that I think Serena and Blair's friendship is necessary is when they have to talk about their drama. But then like Blair mostly talks about her shit to Dorota.
Yeah.
Like Blair doesn't even really need to talk. It's
Blair
just like
talk.
you need someone for Serena to talk to, and it's can't. Serena doesn't have a Dorota. Who's a
Yeah.
true friend. Love that lady.
I was going to ask who's your favorite character?
Hmm. I don't know. I think probably Blair because I think she's the most like got
Yeah,
the
that's
most
fair.
character depth. I do really like Nate as a character, but I think it's just because like I really like the like good boy
Yeah.
kind of like
Nate is also, well, Nate is my favorite character, I think.
yeah like the nice one almost I think is Nate, and then they don't know how to play with Nate's character in this world as like the nice one without like just basically making it Nate has a new girlfriend and then he's kind of bad at being a boyfriend.
Yeah,
Oh
that's,
no, or like Nate has a girlfriend and now he's betraying his friends because his girlfriend told him to.
yeah, he
But
does not
like
just pull along through like random shit.
I I made a list of the worst I wrote down what I think the worst things Nate has done on the show is. And in comparison to all the other characters, it's just so nothing. Like I wrote Nate slept with Serena while he was still with Blair and then led Blair on because his dad was pressuring him. But you forgive that because he's 16
Yeah, his
and
dad
an
was
idiot.
pressuring him. And Blair was also cheating on him. Yeah.
Nate betrays, I think, Chuck's trust because a girl he's kind of dating tells him to. But, like, not even that bad in the grand scheme of things because Chuck probably does much worse all the time. And then the other bad thing he does is dates a high schooler in the last season of the show. And you're like, oh, I don't know if this is supposed to be bad because I actually don't fully comprehend how old you are.
Oh, fair. Still,
Like
I'm gonna assume
I
it's
don't know how
pretty
old
bad.
they're supposed to be. I
When
think
did they
it's
have it?
bad because I'm pretty sure he runs a newspaper by that point.
Oh, okay. Good.
But like also he just randomly has career success and I'm pretty sure didn't go to college.
The worst storylines, I feel like. I like the one where his dad, like, his family kind of goes broke and his dad runs away.
Can we talk about the fact that Nate's family money just seems to disappear and reappear like within
Yeah.
seconds?
I was
Like
wondering
one
that too. Is it
episode,
like his mom has money, but like sometimes
oh,
he's homeless? I don't know.
okay, that's the other bad thing Nate does is he's kind of a dick to Dan when Dan gives him a place to live, but
Oh,
that's
right.
mostly described as like he acted out of like pride and like I think genuinely fearing that his friends would like not be friends with him anymore if he wasn't wealthy like they are.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, no, his I don't know. I think his dad gets arrested, and I think all his money, his assets get frozen or something, and then Nate's homeless.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe like they get the money back, like his dad's cleared from the charges, but then actually he's not, and they lose all the money again. Like basically how they I think resolve that storyline is Nate goes to live with Chuck.
Yeah, it's weird. I find Gossip Girl does a lot with their plot lines. They're so like cyclical sometimes. I find they're like really repetitive. Like
Yeah.
what's going on. Like yeah, like the Nate dad stuff I think happens a couple times. There's the Lily and Rufus thing happens a couple times. There's like the um Chuck's dad and like uncle drama happens a couple times.
Little Chuck's dad literally dies and then comes back to life and then dies again.
Yeah, like they just like do the same thing over again.
Yeah. I think
Um
yeah. But all in all, I like Nate a lot. Like I think he's probably my second favorite character. And that's just because I think like Blair shows a really good amount of like emotional depth and like does a lot.
that's
She's
fair.
really good at like the bitchy one-liners too. That like I think I really appreciate in a character.
Yeah, no, totally. I think they're really fun.
So like
Um,
she would be my favorite. But I'm also glad like I like that it's not a situation where my two favorite characters are like the ones that get together. Like it's very much like I
okay,
like
yeah.
Nate and I like Blair, and when they date, they're terrible.
It's
Like
like two both ends of the
they're
spectrum. Yeah.
I think they did a really good job of those two like being friends, but like the appropriate amount of friends with each other. Where like
Yeah.
it's really clear that like they have no sexual feelings for each other anymore, even though they dated for half their lives.
I think they ever did
Um,
have sexual feelings for each other.
yeah. Well, I think they probably did at one point a little bit, but like not a
Well, Blair
lot.
was like it was always like, Nate, please have sex with me, and Nate was like, no, and then she was like, okay, I'll have sex with Jack. Let's Can we just quickly talk about Jenny and Vanessa,
Sure.
who we haven't mentioned yet. I think
Um,
Jenny is cool. I'm I'm glad she left the show when she did. I think because she gets annoying.
I don't like what they did to Jenny's character,
Yeah,
but I liked her up until she left the show. Basically, like I did really enjoy her to start with as a character, and then I think in the last like season, half season, they started to really fuck with her character, and I didn't
yeah.
love that. Vanessa was just like Dan light. Like she was like there, like okay,
Yeah.
Dan's
They're like,
too
Dan's not
involved.
working. Send in another one.
They're like Dan's
They
too
hate her
part of this
more.
world
Fuck.
now. We need someone else to be the moral high ground. And they send in Vanessa, and she just kind of sucks. And then she becomes super invested in
Yeah.
the world and like becomes awful as a person, and then she leaves. And I'm glad she left.
Yeah. She was
She's literally Dan
terrible,
Light though.
which is too bad because, like, I feel like she could have worked really well. But I think it's the thing is, like, I feel like it's like if they were going to have her be like a second Dan and be that, like, oh, I'm a poor person commentary, she shouldn't be dating any of them.
Yeah, I think she dates Dan and Nate.
She can date Dan, I think, but I don't think she should be allowed to date Nate because he's just like the epitome of everything that she's supposed to hate.
Are we good to move on to finales, or do you have? Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm going to move on.
Did you look into the finale at all? Do you know what happens?
I think I know that Dan and Serena get married, and that
Mm-hmm.
it's everyone forgives Dan for being Gossip Girl because he was going through a tough time or something.
Yeah, they basically are all like, oh, well, like it's in the past, and like Dan admits to being Gossip Girl to Serena,
That's so fucked up.
and it's so
Like,
dumb. Whereas
what?
like, I feel like they should be way more angry at him. But okay, fine, they're not. Like, or okay, fine, they don't care who Gossip Girl is anymore, and they're like, oh, it's in the past. Like, why do you still care, Serena? And then,
Or maybe it could have been like Dan's like, I started Gossip Girl, but like I never meant for it to get like
yeah,
used or
I
like something
think
like that.
that's
Like it
the
was like a
word.
project, and I was like really like obsessed with you guys
He's like, it
before I came to
started
school.
like this. I'm like, I totally would have gotten it from that perspective, but then like, he did take it back over by the end. So like,
Aren't there like a ton of like did you like read the thing where it's like the writers like from the start it was gonna be what's his
Eric.
name? Yeah, Eric.
But
And then
then
people
people
were
kept
guessing it.
guessing that it was Eric, so they
Yeah.
changed it. Which, I watched like a, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like a video essay or like it was a response to this, and it was basically saying like it's a good thing if audiences
Yeah.
can guess what the solution to the mystery is, because that means that you did a good job at like leaving breadcrumbs and like
Yeah.
making, or like, yeah, like leaving breadcrumbs and like showing who it was, like making it something that people guess. Because
Yeah.
people love, like, if that is a mystery and that's a thing, like people love trying to solve that kind of stuff.
Totally. Yeah, like no
Yeah.
one's gonna be mad that they guessed it right. I guess they wanted to seem really smart, but then also like I don't know, you're writing Gossip Girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
By the end, I was like, I was happy Dan and Serena got married, just for the reason that I don't know if it was just me, but I was like so done with those two characters that I was like, yeah, just marry them off and like have them go off and be their thing. And
Yeah.
Blair finally gets her happily ever after with Chuck, and they get married. Kind of weird that it happens after Chuck murders his father,
Oh,
but cool. I
very
guess like I don't know if it's murder. Chuck just doesn't save his father when his father is holding on to a roof for his
Again, they
life.
can't commit to the characters actually doing bad things.
It's like Chuck and his dad get into a physical altercation, and then his dad is holding onto the roof and is like, "Help me, son, help me." And Chuck's like, "Nah." And then his
Honestly,
dad falls
fair.
through.
Chuck's dad fucking deserves it, doesn't he? Like, isn't he like a piece
Yeah,
of
yeah.
shit? Yeah.
I was glad he was gone too, but it's like, and then
I just
the
think they
only
should
other
have gone
person.
ham. They should have had him like fully kill his dad.
Yeah, so then that's
It's
the thing is
very
like Chuck
cathartic.
and Blair are on the roof together. I think in that his dad and him get into a fight, so Blair sees it, and then they have to get married so that she can't testify against him.
I think I did see that. I thought it was like a meme.
But then,
So dumb.
Blair was like, and Chuck was like, no, like I want to give you your fairy tale. Like I don't want us to get married, just because we have to. And she's like, no, I really want to marry you. Like let's do
Also,
this.
Blair, if you're the only other witness, you can just say he fell. Like,
Yeah,
you
she can
don't
just
have to
lie.
like.
I also liked that Nate ended the season or the series without a girlfriend because I feel like girls were his like big trouble. Like every time Nate had a girlfriend, shit
They're bad
hit the
news.
fan for him. And so it was kind of like, oh, he's single. I think he was like running for mayor or something like that,
Oh
which
wow.
makes sense for him because he's very charismatic.
Yeah.
Um,
Good for Nate. He'll do
and
well.
like he's just, I feel like focusing on his career and himself, and I liked that a lot in the finale. And
Are they
that's
all still friends
basically,
in the finale?
yep. They do
Are
a
they
5
actually
years.
friends?
They do a 5 years later cut where it's Dan and Serena's wedding, and
Oh,
Chuck and
that's
Blair
right.
have a kid, and Nate's running for mayor. And also, I think Lily's randomly back with her ex. Um, like they do some really makeshift random couples at the end that I don't really get, but okay.
Well, everyone has to end up with someone at the end of the TV
Except
series,
for
right? But
Nate,
yeah,
he
except
doesn't.
Nate.
He doesn't end up with that
Well,
high schooler he was dating.
surprisingly. Well, that sounds like a very fitting finale for Gossip Girl. I do think it's weird they're also friends at the end because I feel like they should not be friends. Seems like they just like trauma bonded, but whatever.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, they did just trauma bond.
I feel like they had like that like Pretty Little Liars. I was like, oh, they always like kind of were like, oh, like they were friends in like middle school, and now they've grown up and they've grown apart, and like because all this shit went down, and then this is more a story of like them not being friends. But like whatever, okay, they're friends now.
I think they might reveal Dan as Gossip Girl in the 5 years later cut, as opposed to right away, which I think is part of why they forgive him because they're like, oh, it's been like 5 years since this you were even present. And Serena's writing
I
like
feel
a
like I just
book
wouldn't admit
about
it
who
at that
Gossip
point.
Girl is. Yeah,
I just like still don't care who Gossip Girl is. Does it ever become like a
yeah,
bigger like issue?
yeah. Later in the series, I think they're like, what do we do with Serena? We'll make her on a hunt for who Gossip Girl is.
Oh, I see. That's so stupid.
I feel like that's basically what it is.
I think one thing the show is missing for me overall is like it got so cyclical, and it's like you're doing this whole. They seem to abandon the whole social commentary thing after like season one, and then they go into this world of just like whimsical like richness in the Upper East Side, New York. And I think I wish they had gone harder on that. I feel like they don't do a
Well,
lot of like
in
rich
one
people
season,
things.
Blair marries a prince.
I guess. Oh yeah, that
In season
happens. That's too
5,
far. Pull that back.
in season 5,
I mean,
Blair
like
marries a prince.
in terms of like the setting or like plot devices, like they're never
Yeah,
like on
I
a
do
yacht or
like.
like golfing or like I don't know, like all this shit that like I feel like they do in like Succession or something.
I think they could do more of like because in season 3, in the opening of season 3, I think, or maybe opening of season 2, I can't remember. They do like I think more stuff where like they're at country clubs and stuff like that for like the first episode for like
Oh,
a few
okay, okay.
scenes, and then that's it. Season 2 or 3, I can't remember. But I do know that I think it would have been better, yeah, if they played around with like the settings a little bit more. They play around with the outfits a lot, which I really love. Like they give
Okay.
Blair and Serena these like crazy
Yeah,
outlandish
totally.
outfits, and I love that. But yeah, if they could play more with the setting, maybe they like do travel together and like they go on a vacation together and like that causes drama.
Yeah, totally. I just feel like
Hey,
that's kind of
that
part
friend
of
group
it.
going on vacation together, drama would ensue.
Especially Gossip Girl Goes International. Yeah, I love when shows
Yeah.
just do that.
Yeah, my takes on the finale were like I feel like I liked it because I liked that it was genuinely an ending to the show and I didn't have to like
Okay, yeah.
be a part of it anymore. Like I was like, okay, I can comfortably put this in the past now.
I think doing a 5 year cut is a really good way to end
I
a
love
show
when
like
shows
that.
do like um
Like I do
5 years
there now.
later or like
Yeah.
10 years later or something, because I also like it because they don't give anything else an opportunity to like come in and be like, oh, but right after that happened, shit hit the fan. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want to know that my
No, same.
characters went off and lived happily ever after, and that's that.
I think same, and I think it works really well here. Usually, I'm not a fan of it. Usually, I'd rather it just end kind of like on a normal day. I like
Oh,
when so maybe like it could be like New Girlfriends where they're moving out, but like I sometimes I don't like the hard cut because I like having things left to the imagination. But for
no,
this
I
one, I
don't
think it
like
works
that.
well because like the whole time it's just been random shit going on with them.
I
So I like that it's
usually
like no, okay, this is the fixed thing that they end up doing. Cool.
should we move on to our hot takes.
Yeah, baby. What are your hot takes? Start with something spicy. Start with something
Okay,
mild.
you want to hear
Move
something?
into something spicy.
You want to hear something spicy? I don't know how spicy this is, but I did recently look up when I was trying to find out the bad things Nate did in the show. I did recently look it up and find out that it was like reasons why we hate Nate, and one of them was because of his thing with Jenny. And my hot take is I actually thought Nate and Jenny were kind of cute together. I felt like my only problem with them was it was a lot of build up for no payoff
Bro,
because they
yeah,
just like
my favorite couple in that show is Nate and Jenny. That is also gonna be one of my hot takes. They're
okay, I'm
so
so
cute together.
they did this like build up of like also showing basically
I,
why, because Nate was with Serena at first and Jenny was kind of trying to destroy that relationship, which I thought was fucked up, but then
yeah,
like they did this build up of like why Nate and Jenny made sense as a couple, and I was like, oh, I can kind of see it. I'm kind of enjoying this. I think this could be cute. And then Nate rejects her. She fucks Chuck and she leaves.
good for Jenny, honestly. But like, no, same. Like, I really wanted them to get together, and I thought they were gonna pull the trigger on it because I saw them flirting, and I hated Vanessa, so I was like
Cowards.
fully on board for Jenny and Nate. And like, why do they say we hate him for this? Like, they don't have
I
an age
think
difference really. Like, they're both in high
yeah, because
school.
he was, well, I think he was like had just graduated and she was in high school still. But
But
like their
like,
age gap is like 1 to 2 years, so at no point do
yeah,
I think that's like inappropriate. Like I think the reason why it was like gross for Chuck to hit on Jenny in season one was because she was this naive, unassuming 14-year-old girl who really didn't understand anything, and Chuck was like very
yeah,
intentionally preying on that. Whereas like with like later in the show, like when she's like knows a lot about this world, but then also she and Nate just have this like genuine friendship and this bond that has been
hmm
formed. And then you're like, oh yeah, I want to see you date. And like everyone knows that Nate and Serena are never gonna last. That's a relationship built on lies and cheating and affairs. You think that's gonna last?
yeah. Like I don't know, yeah. Their chemistry was really good, and like they were the only ones that ever felt like they genuinely enjoyed each other's company, other than maybe like Serena and Dan. But
Yeah. Okay. That was the other thing is, yeah, it felt like they genuinely really cared about each other
yeah,
in a way that wasn't toxic. Like I think Jenny
yeah.
did do some toxic things that like I would chalk up to her being a teenager and being frustrated with the fact that she can't express her feelings properly, which I think all of them had done in the show and were still doing in the show. So I wasn't like that mad at her.
I'm a sucker as well for like I guess this is kind of a trope, but like for like the younger like shy sibling, like the little girl has like a crush on like the older guy, but then
Yeah, I
like
like
goes
the.
gets like his
I guess it's
puberty
like
and like
the brother's best friend trope. I kind of enjoy
yeah,
that sometimes, where it's like she's the younger sibling who like he didn't necessarily look at, and then like like they all of a sudden they for some reason like start
like
hanging out,
glow up or whatever, and then they're like
and
yeah,
then like sparks start a flying. I kind of like
yeah,
that too because I like when it's like characters that you wouldn't expect or like wouldn't under normal circumstances get together, and then like something happens where they have to interact, and then you realize they have so much chemistry, and you're like, oh, okay, I want to see
yeah.
this.
I think it's such like a fun like a fun character arc as well as like that like growth into like femininity, where it's like, oh fuck, like men are just stupid and like I can easily get
Yeah.
this guy if I just wear like heels kind of thing, you know, like I feel like that's really fun too when she realizes like, oh,
Well,
I am hot shit and I am turning heads and like that's
I
fun.
also really like that it feels like he really supports her like journey from like
Yeah.
being the typical like Upper East Side kind of Barbie doll to like being a more like alternative, like fashion, like getting into like the life that she wants to get into, and he really like seems to support that and like help her out. Like when she
Yeah.
needs him, he's like always there, which I really like. I love to see.
I like
Oh,
the parallel of like him kind of like coming out of that world, like losing all his money and status, at least in season one, and then Jenny kind of like trying to go into that world.
yeah.
I think it's like a
I
nice
think
like they kind of meet in the middle.
I think they also both like have I think similar understandings of that world and like how harsh and cruel it can be.
Yeah,
While
like
still,
Jenny also kind of gives up on it. She kind of
yeah,
sees through the.
she rebels against it. She kind of rejects it later in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also like both of them are like they they have this like they want to be the good guy, but they struggle with being the good guy and trying to live within the like walls of this world and like the complicated like
Yeah.
politics of it, which I enjoy. Like I just think they're characters that like they really worked, and I was genuinely really upset with like the direction the show chose to
I
go.
know.
And I know that the
Like,
girl who
oh no, we gotta
plays
make like Nate sleep with a teacher instead. Like, no.
I know that the woman who or the person who plays Jenny wanted to like leave the show, like she was not
Oh,
happy.
okay.
But I think what could have been a fun way for her to maybe leave the show and like leave the door open for her and Nate, because she left the show at the end of what season 3, season 4,
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah,
later
four
in the
maybe.
show she left it. I feel like it could have left the door open if like maybe like she and Nate kissed or like they hooked up and then she's like I can't be
Yeah.
in this world, like it's really bad for me, it's like I'm
Yeah, that
just
would have been
like
good.
because like that is basically why she leaves, but they say like the sort of tipping point is when she hooks up with Chuck. But I think what's almost like would be better is like she recognized that the world was bad for her mental health, but like when she was leaving, maybe she like gave me a kiss goodbye, and like there was some sort of like acknowledgement that this was a relationship that was like sweet and like could have happened.
Yeah, or like maybe if it was kind of like, let's run away together, but Nate like couldn't or something, or like,
Yeah,
yeah,
she's like, oh, like come with me, like I'm leaving,
yeah, kind of
and leave
thing.
this
Like,
world behind. Like, because I
and she's
think
like,
both
I
of them do
understand.
kind
Yeah.
of like talk about wanting to reject the world, but then Nate's like, I can't, like this is just who I am, and then
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, do you have another hot take?
Um. Oh, I don't know if this is really a hot take, but I thought that Jenny. Okay, so I thought I really didn't like Jenny and Blair's rivalry in season one. I
Well,
thought
they
it
had a
was like,
rivalry later.
sorry.
Did they have a rivalry in season 1? I
Well,
thought
like
it was
whenever
later.
however early they have it, I feel like it's too early.
Because initially, what happens is Jenny idolizes Blair and like is trying to be one of her minions.
But that like, does that like slowly go into like their
No,
rivalry, or is it like at the
I
same
think Blair does something
time?
shitty to Jenny, and she like, and then I think Jenny like tries to
Jenny,
like one up Blair, and then Blair
yeah,
like straight up destroys Jenny, and then Jenny like comes back as like anti all of that, and like is friends with like
right.
Eric, and like there's that whole thing.
I think like
Um,
I'm okay with it. Okay, so the reason why I think it's just too soon, like I think it's fine, but I think like Jenny was presented as too much of a threat for the reasons that I think it worked really well for Jenny, and I think that like Jenny being so much of a threat kind of detracted from us like understanding that Blair was supposed to be like the main threat. But I think like
yeah,
it worked well for Jenny, and it should have been maybe saved for her to be like a bigger bad later on when she's like in her emo phase. Like I think she should have been like a
yeah.
villain of the season.
I do think it takes away from like Blair's
Yeah,
because honestly, the way it looks to me is Blair is like an older, more confident person who is
yeah,
just bullying like a kid.
yeah. It's weird. It's like this is a freshman. You're like,
It's like I feel like, and
why would you even talk to one? Like,
I do get that like we have to like yeah like I just think like Blair is obviously the one who has more power in that situation. Like Blair is obviously the one who is in control and in charge
yeah,
more. And I think Jenny should be depicted at the start, at least, more as like a pain in Blair's ass
Yeah.
than like an actual genuine threat. And I think it would have been interesting to see them as like frenemies for a bit before like they become full blown enemies. Or maybe they're frenemies and then they like learn to respect each other.
I agree.
I don't know, one of the two, but I think some sort of middle. Yeah, like I think you're right, and I think they give Jenny way too much power way too early on.
Um, do you think that Serena's mom is kind of a slut? Yes or no?
I don't know. Maybe I think that Serena's mom. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I think Lily and Rufus have the grossest relationship. I think it's so weird that they had a relationship and got married while their kids were still having this weird on again off again relationship and their kids were still living with them. Like I think fine, like
Yeah.
date if you want to date, like obviously don't let that. But I think there is some aspect of like, aren't you worried your kids will just be like straight up like hooking up like next door to each other like all the time?
Yeah.
Like I think there's that weird thing, and then also I don't like that they did this parallel of like, well, Lily and Rufus were just like Dan and Serena and tried to make it work.
I hate
I
that.
hated it. It was terrible. I
It's
was like,
so like incesty. It's like what?
I almost kind of would have been like, oh yeah, we did it in high school and it just didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, that's fine. And maybe like they use that as like a way to be like, hey, maybe our kids can be different. Like maybe they can like have this sort of like
Yeah.
maybe we can like help them like not have these two different worlds thing be as big a deal as it was for us. And like not like anything sexual between them, not like, oh, we want to be together, like just like a hey, like let's make it easier on our kids because this was something that was a real struggle for our relationship and it really hurt. Like
Yeah.
I think that would have been okay, but I didn't like that they had something in the show. It just felt really incesty.
It's really weird. Yeah. And it's just like I feel like I see it more from Lily's perspective than Rufus, so that's probably why I think like Lily is more culpable. But it seems like Lily as well kind of knows from like the first mention of Rufus's name that she still has feelings for him, and like I don't know. It seems like she's never like really appalled or like ignorant.
Yeah. Well,
or like dismissive of him.
in the first episode, Rufus is very much still like thinking that he and his
right.
ex-wife are going to get back together.
But like Lily kind of isn't, and I think it's kind of weird.
But I think Lily is very much like, oh, he's the one that like got away.
Yeah,
but, like she's bitter about it.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and then
it's just like own your feelings. Like it's fine to like feel that way, but you can't just act as if nothing's wrong and then like sleep with him a couple years down the line. Like,
yeah, I just think that whole like I don't like when shows do it where it's like, oh, you know, like, it's like these two characters start dating and then you find out their parents used to date in high school and you're like, it's not cute like you think it is, or some like fun parallel. It's just like kind of gross.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, ew.
It's like, oh, okay, so like you almost got married and had
because also
either one of us. Like
to me that's like, oh, then like if it had worked out, like
we would kind of be siblings. Like yeah.
Yeah, like what's this shit?
Like I guess not really, but like yeah.
No, but like if it had worked out and you had kids, like the equivalent would be like, let's say we existed.
Like you would rather us be siblings, and that's weird. And like you're probably gonna treat us kind of like siblings, and that's weird.
Yeah, like I just think it was really incesty and gross. I don't know if I think Lily's a slut, but I didn't like that parallel.
I thought she was kind of a slut because she sleeps with Rufus on her the night before her wedding.
Oh, does she? Oh yeah, she marries Bart. I forgot.
Oh yeah, yes, she marries Bart because quote unquote I just want to get married right now.
Serena's just like related to all of them by the end, huh?
Yeah. Like it's like not cute. They're like filming it with like little like cute music. She's like leaving Rufus's apartment like in her wedding dress, like gotta go get married. And he's like, okay, I love you forever. And she's like, I'll love you forever too. And it's like that's not cute or romantic. That's disgusting. Like you're about to go walk down the aisle. How do you sleep at night?
That's also like, I think that's like almost something that would like make sense if they were like the age of like the other characters, like Blair. And
like
Chuck
they do that.
Like if you were like, I'm getting married, but I love you, but like no, like you're not the one for me, but like one last time, like sort of like that kind of. You could see it as like a pained romance, but they're in their like 40s or 50s. Like, get your shit together and stop sleeping with your high school boyfriend.
Is there a reason in particular why she feels the need to marry, what's his name, Charles Bass or whatever Chuck's dad's name is? I guess that's Chuck's dad.
Um, I guess it depends on the timing. Like if Dan and Serena are still together, then maybe she's like, I can't be with him because my daughter. Or if not that, maybe it's like, oh, like our relationship will never work. Like no matter how much I love him, it just won't work
I think
because
it was
they're
the
like two
former
different
because
worlds.
she was very much like, I'm in love with you, but I'm gonna marry Mr.
Yeah. Well,
Bass.
because like I know that like they talk about it like, oh, well, the reason our relationship wouldn't work is just because like we really like Rufus won't be a part of the world that she's in, and she won't give up that world for him.
I guess, but he kind of is, anyways. So it's
Yeah,
like
but
weird.
like I think
Yeah, no, that's how she
like
rationalizes
that's how they
it.
depict it, and then that's what also why they get divorced. I'm pretty sure is because Rufus is like, I don't want to be in this world. Like I've let you sort of.
Right.
I think he sort of feels like she's forced him into this like upper class world, and he wants to live his life that's like also upper class, but like slightly less upper class, I guess.
This is upper middle class, right?
Yeah, he's like, I want to be in my middle upper class world, and she's like, I want to be in my upper class world, and they're like can't agree on it.
Yeah. But like,
Um,
I think that's fair, but it's weird that so her logic is just, well, I can't be with the man I love. So I guess I'll get married to someone else that I don't love. Like what? That's not like they're not mutually like exclusive.
but yeah, I'm also gonna say this. I feel like a really hot take that my 12-year-old self would kill me for saying.
What are you gonna say?
I think Dan and Blair were actually kind of cute. Like I know you didn't watch that season.
I didn't.
They formed this fun friendship, where like I felt like they created some sort of actual mutual respect for each other, and I didn't realize until I went back and rewatched like I think I like watched like randomly a few scenes of them together, and I realized they're very well matched for each other. They're both like they're both intellectuals. Like they both like
Yeah.
are really smart, and like I think when Blair comes at him in petty ways, Dan is like really quick to call her out and be like, just tell me why you're really mad. Like don't be
Oh, okay, that is kind of
like
nice.
don't be like this
I can
Blair.
kind of see it.
Like I feel like he's just like he forces her to not play the game
Okay, that's good.
as much. And I kind of enjoyed them, and I think honestly in a real world setting their relationship could have worked because they did show like them trying to meet in the middle sometimes, like be like, okay, like you're from this part of New York and I'm from this part of New York. Like, how are we ever gonna make this work? That's so ridiculous. But yeah, so I think like they do show to some extent why their relationship could work, and then like they kind of have to like be like, oh, but it just won't. Like they kind of like depict it as like this tragic romance at the end, like Lily and Rufus, where it's like, oh no, but like we must
Okay.
break up now.
So the
And then
correct
like
parallel.
obviously they couldn't sell it because like Chuck and Blair are built up to be like the couple, but I genuinely and like for the show their relationship was I think a little bit too like I don't remember all of it, like I only really remember some of it, but from what I remember their relationship was not like not problematic in the way that a relationship goes. Like I feel like they
Yeah.
they respected each other enough to be honest with each other. I think he forced Blair to be less of like the sort of petty rich girl
Mm-hmm.
game player, but at the same time, like they both are very good at playing the game. Like I think they have a really good match because I think they're both as smart as each other.
Okay.
So like I felt like it made sense, but I also know that my younger self would have killed me for saying this.
No, I think I can definitely see it. I mean, like I was always like a Blair Chuck stan. I don't know. They're pretty
So was
entertaining. They're
I.
definitely toxic and not healthy. So maybe it's like they would be the healthiest couple, but
Yeah, I think
not where
like
the ratings are.
they were a healthy couple, but they're not going to be where they're rated. I thought they were relatively healthy.
Okay, no, I can kind of see that. That's interesting. It's more fun at least. Like it's kind of annoying that they kind of hit the nail on the head in the first season with like Chuck and Blair and Dan and Serena. only to break them up for the entire series and then put them back together at the end. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of annoying.
I definitely think
Maybe I'll watch that. I kind of want to see a little Dan Blair action. I wasn't sure if I would, but it sounds intriguing.
yeah, they're together for a really short amount of time. Like at the end of season 5. But like I don't know, they form a really nice friendship where like he kind of is
Okay.
like her knight in shining armor a
No,
bit.
I can see that.
I don't know. I just yeah. I like watching characters that I feel like are well matched in terms of like when I watch a couple fight, is one of them clearly gonna win? Or like is there sort of a bit of fun with like
Oh, okay,
um
yeah.
what's gonna happen? Like you sort of are like it's not just it's like if when Blair and Nate are together, it's like Blair is smarter than Nate. Blair will just win every time if they like have an
Yeah.
argument.
I feel like
But
as well, Blair needs to be kind of the top in the relationship. Like,
yeah.
I think sometimes I felt bad when like her and Chuck would argue. I think like Chuck won too many times. Like, I think she's what like I feel like she always kind of looked at her worst and like most desperate when her and Chuck were arguing.
Yeah, because I think with her and Chuck, she was a lot more emotional and he was a lot more like
Yeah.
not. So I think like what I
He was
also don't
kind of
like
just a
was like
dick. Like, he would never like let up. Or not very
yeah.
often, at least. Yeah.
And it was like she would forgive him because he showed a shred of emotion.
I
Whereas
know.
like
Yeah.
he didn't
Yeah,
actually earn it.
honestly, they're not great
Well,
together.
okay, that's the thing is like I definitely was a Chuck and Blair stan, and I probably always will be like, yeah, of course they
Yeah.
should be together.
They're
But
fun.
like, but like, I also in my head like if I were to watch this show now as an adult and watch their relationship unfold, I don't think I would like really be okay with it.
I'd probably also then be fine with like if Blair were to end up with Dan at the end. Like, I think then Chuck would be a good like first few seasons boyfriend
It's
kind of
so
thing.
yeah,
Like,
I think he would have been a good sort of boyfriend to make her realize that she needed something different.
yeah, because I when I think of Dan and I think of Chuck, they're like very opposite.
Yeah,
It's kind of like crazy as well, which I feel like happened more back then than it does today. Maybe it's just like an oversaturation of them today. But like everyone on Gossip Girl, at least most everyone, kind of got like pretty big careers off of the show,
yeah,
right? Like, that was a big start for a lot of them.
I would say like Blake Lively is huge.
Yeah.
Leighton Meester has had a really good career too.
Even like Chase
Um,
Crawford's in a fair bit of stuff.
Chase Crawford, Penn Badgley's obviously pretty big. Like the least big I would say is Ed Westwick, and like I've still seen him
Yeah.
in some other stuff.
He was on like a show. He was a lead on a show for a bit, I think.
Oh, was he? I know he like
Did Jenny do like music
yeah, she
afterwards?
did.
Okay.
I do like Lively a lot. Like I feel bad hating Serena so much, almost because I'm like I'm not personally attacking you, Blake Lively. I really like you.
um,
Um, and I am yeah, and plus Serena is a fellow blonde, which I
yeah.
love to see.
Love
But
to see the blondes represented.
you know, I always have to be the Serena character because I'm a blonde. But do I love her? No. Do I like her? No.
Okay.
I noticed most people said they were team. We did our Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Who are you team?
Yeah. No
I
one picked
noticed that.
Giles.
No. I noticed that most people said they were team Angel, and Giles was in second place.
Really?
Spike was in last at the end of it. No one's team Spike.
People are
I was
wrong.
talking to my sister about it, and I was like, I saw you were team Angel, and she was like, yeah, I'm not fucking stupid. They're like basically like the
Whoa.
gist of it. We had a
If you have
conversation. And
no taste,
she's like,
fine.
she's like,
Spike's
yeah. I
an
was like,
acquired taste.
you don't want to pick Giles, and she's like, no, absolutely not. So, anyways, thought that was a fun discovery. Most people are Team Angel, so maybe we really do have hot takes.
I guess so. We're really taking the less
Um,
beaten path. Um,
yeah, we'll
but
do.
yeah, so then let's follow up with that, and then like who's
We should do. We should maybe do like Gossip Girl couples.
oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, Gossip Girl couples. We'll do we'll do like a Dan and are you like team Dan Serena, team like Blair Dan, or team Jenny Nate? And we don't even mention Chuck and Blair.
Do exclusively the couples no one likes, or do
Yeah.
Serena and
Rufus and
Nate,
Lily.
Jenny and Nate, Dan and Dan and Blair, and like Vanessa and anyone.
Vanessa and Vanessa. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anyways, what
Let us
a
know. Yeah, let us know who your favorite characters are, who your least favorite characters are, what couples worked for you, why.
and if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to drop a like, comment, subscribe.
Ring that bell.
Hey, ding that bell to get notified when we drop a new episode.
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, we're really bad at pushing ourselves in terms of like saying, oh yeah, keep following. Follow our Instagram
Yeah,
at
we
Don't
do
Read Into It
appreciate,
Pod.
yeah, we do
Um,
appreciate everyone who follows and listens to us. We put a lot of work into it, so it's
yeah,
great to
I
it's
let
great to
my
see those stats
school
coming in that
I
people
let
are
my
getting the
school
most of them.
grades fall by the wayside to work on this.
Yeah,
So
Rebecca's
you
still
better
coming out here.
flippin' appreciate.